I beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Emerald Rogue, the ROM hack that turns Pokemon into a roguelike with procedurally generated routes, meaning items, Pokemon, and gym leaders are random. In a Nuzlocke, if a Pokemon faints, it's dead forever, and I can only encounter one new Pokemon per area. The rest of the standard hardcore Nuzlocke rules are on the screen and in the description down below. I had already attempted this challenge and lost, but this time I'm back for vengeance. Let's do this. In Emerald Rogue, your starter is one of 3 randomly generated Pokemon. My choices are Trash, Trash, and Not Trash. I pick Not Trash and name him Ohio. Tail will become an amazing Pokemon upon evolution because of its ability Guts, giving it a 50% attack boost when inflicted with a status condition. And just like that, I'm at the tunnel where it all begins. Once I go through this tunnel, there's no going back. Ohio and I are dumped on the first of hopefully many world maps. The way that this works is you go through routes to get encounters, item shops, and other boards. At the end of the board lies a boss battle. Defeat the boss and the level cap rises. You repeat this process until all 8 gym leaders, 4 Elite Four members, and 2 champions are defeated. I decide to go with a calm, sharp route for my first encounter, which ends up being a Solrock, who I catch, and I ultimately decide to name Pennsylvania. I also catch a Lapras named Massachusetts on the next route over. With these 2 team members, it's time for the first gym leader. The first random leader ends up being Flannery, which is great because we have solid answers into her team. She leads Charmander and I lead off with Ohio. A wing attack does half as an Ember does massive damage. Luckily I outspeed and take it out with a wing attack. Slugma is up next, so I switch into Pennsylvania on an Incinerate. A rock throw on the next turn then gets the kill. Last up is Torchic, who just goes down to a single rock throw, winning me a pretty easy and straightforward gym battle. Suddenly, I'm thrusted back into the cool world of Emerald Rogue. This will continue another 13 times, so buckle up. Anyway, the first stop is an item vendor who sells held items. Items unlock over time in this game, and with just 1 gym badge, there's really not much to look for at the moment. The next board grants me another encounter in the form of Diglett. Dugtrio isn't the best Pokemon out there, so I'm going to be replacing this thing the first chance I get. Either way, Colorado the Diglett is here for now. With an increased level cap, I can evolve Ohio into a Swellow. Like I mentioned, Swellow has Guts, so that'll be fun to play around with once I get access to a Flame Orb. This means I'm ready for the second gym leader, Winona. She leads off with Aerodactyl, and I lead off with Massachusetts. A bite does a Slaver before Brian leaves it in the red HP range. A follow-up bite flinches me, meaning I have to tank another one before getting the kill with a Water Pulse. Yanma comes in second, and a priority Ice Shard leaves it in the red before Yanma sets up a double team and gets a speed boost. Yanma then protects, so he gets another speed boost. It doesn't exactly matter here because another priority Ice Shard gets the kill. Beautifly comes in and an Ice Shard leaves in the red before I tank an Air Cutter. It doesn't matter because yet again another Ice Shard takes it out. Last is Scyther, so I switch into Pennsylvania as Scyther sets up an Agility. I get hit hard with a Fairy Cutter before a Rock Throw takes it out, winning me the battle and the second gym badge of the playthrough. As I won, I move on to the next board. The first route offers a Beautifly, which is a horrible encounter, worse than Dugtrio, but for now, New Jersey the Beautifly is here to stay. The next board also offers an item shop where I can buy the Ice Beam TM for Lapras. This brings me my fight against the third gym leader, Liza. She leads Execute and I lead off with New Jersey. 1 quad time super effective Bug Buzz is enough for the one shot, so New Jersey at least did something. And that's all she will get to do because Gardevoir comes in and gets the kill with a Psychic. RIP buddy, you did nothing. This does mean I get a free switch into Pennsylvania as Gardevoir sets up a Calm Mind before I nail him with a Rock Slide. Luckily on the next turn I outspeed and get the KO with another Slide. Third is Girafarig, and he hits a Limp Psybeam before a Rock Throw does massive damage. I get hit with yet again another Psybeam before I can go for a Rock Throw to get the kill. Last is Kadabra, who gets off for a Reflect before a Rock Throw leaves it in the yellow HP range. Kadabra then hits a Recover, but it doesn't really matter, and a follow-up Rock Throw then gets the kill, winning me the third gym badge of the run. It's here the map opens up a bit and I get more choices. The first is a game show. The way this show works is I have 2 choices. One has a chance of being a good option, such as money or EVs. The second is a bad option, such as losing money or having a Pokemon traded away. I decide to pick the left option first and my Pokemon get a bit stronger. I stay with the left option and I lose $100. On the third round, I offset losing the money because I win 10k with the right option. But then on the fourth round, I decide to stay with the right and lose $1,000 So my final rewards are some EVs and 8,999 Pokédollars, so not too shabby. My next encounter is a statue, and this statue contains a legendary Pokemon. I normally ban legendaries and Nuzlocks, but since other trainers use them, sometimes more than one, and I want the true roguelike experience, I decided to unban them. This game won't just give you a free legendary, however, you have to earn it by fighting a trainer. She leads off with Sableye, and I lead off with Pennsylvania. A rock throw does massive damage and gets the flinch, meaning a follow-up rock throw on the next turn is enough to take it out. Second is Poliwhirl, so I switch into Massachusetts on a failed Bubble Beam thanks to Water Absorb. Realizing I can't do much, I switch into Ohio on a Rain Dance. An Aerial Ace does half before I get hit with a Bubble Beam. This means I can go for another Aerial Ace to take it out. Third is Marshtomp, who tanks half from an Aerial Ace before I take massive damage from a Rock Slide. This means another Aerial Ace is enough to take it out. Last is Mantine, so it's off to Pennsylvania on a Water Pulse that confuses. It doesn't matter, and a follow-up Rock Throw takes it out, winning me the battle. My legendary Pokemon here ends up being a Registeel. California is an amazing Pokemon thanks to its attack, Steel type, and its ability to get Earthquake later down the line. My next board is a Mart Stop, and in this Mart Stop contains a man. This man for 1,000 Pokédollars is willing to trade away one of my Pokemon. Can you see where I'm going with this? It's time to say bye to Colorado, who won't be missed. Instead, we welcome Golduck to Golduck, and with Lapras already being part Water type, he will not get much use at all. The next randomized gym leader is Brawly. He leads off with Medicham, and I lead off with Solrock. A Psychic does half and gets a defense drop as it sets up an Acupressure. From here, a couple more Psychics get the kill. Next up is Hitmontop, who takes massive damage from a Psychic before setting up an Agility. I get hit with a Gyro Ball on the next turn, but then a Psychic gets the KO. Third is Hitmonlee, who wastes time going for a Mind Reader before a Psychic does massive damage. On the next turn, I get hit hard with a high jump kick before a Psychic gets the KO. Fourth is Poliwrath, so it's off to Golduck on a Dynamic Punch that confuses. I of course hit myself in confusion as Poliwrath sets up a Mind Reader. I then switch into Ohio on a Missed Dynamic Punch. An Air Slash saves it in the yellow HP range before Poliwrath goes for a Mind Reader. It doesn't matter, and another Air Slash takes it out. Last up is Machamp, and with its massive damage from an Air Slash, it sets up a Bulk Up. Even with a defense boost, it doesn't matter, and an Air Slash gets the kill, winning me the battle and the 4th gym badge of the playthrough. It's here that I make a realization. My team isn't the best, and I don't have a full team of 6 and have already collected half of the gym badges. This is why I decided to challenge a trainer. By defeating the random trainer, I get to keep one of his Pokemon. In this case, the Lawn Maiden Annabelle. She leads with Feraligatr and I lead with Solrock. I hard switch into Massachusetts on a Crunch that gets the defense drop. I then tank another Crunch before going for an Ice Beam. Annabelle then switches to Kabutops on an Ice Beam, so it's off to California on a Mega Drain. A few Iron Heads get the kill after I tank some Aqua Jets. Feraligatr then comes back in and hits an Ice Fang before I hit an Iron Head. From here, it's an uphill battle as we trade off attacks. I get Feraligatr low, but then the AI decides to switch into Blossom, who tanks a Bulldoze. From here, it's off to Ohio on a sunny day. Annabelle then decides to shoot herself in the foot by switching into Feraligatr, who just gets killed with an Air Slash. Next up is Ursaring, who tanks half from an Air Slash. In return, he hits a weak Slash. This means another Air Slash then gets the KO. Next up is Pidgeot, who takes massive damage from an Air Slash, and it's a weak Wing Attack. It doesn't matter, and another Air Slash takes it out. Last is Blossom, who just gets destroyed by another Air Slash, winning me the battle. As a reward, Annabelle gives me 3 TMs for Toxic, and I get the choice of Kabutops or Blossom. I decide to go with Kabutops and welcome Oregon to the team. Now, it's here where things get interesting. Because I have a full team of 6, I can't carry any more Pokemon because there's no PC system. This means if I want a new Pokemon, I have to throw one out. My next route is a strong encounter. The strong encounter is a Vaporeon, and I have 3 water types, so pass if you know what I mean. In the next board, it's back to the weird man who will trade away one of my Pokemon. This means it's farewell to Golduck and hello to Eevee. The end of the board contains a fight with the 5th gym leader, Juan. Juan leads with Dugong and I lead off with Organ. A Mega Drain does minimal damage as Dugong goes underwater. I miss my attack and Dugong of course lands a critical hit dive. A Mega Drain does half as Dugong goes back underwater. A follow-up dive does a fifth as I hit a Mega Drain for minimal damage. Dugong then goes back underwater and hits yet again another dive. I go for a Mega Drain, leaving Dugong with a sliver as he goes back underwater. I then proceed to miss another Mega Drain before dive leaves me on just 20 HP. Luckily, another Mega Drain takes it out. Next up is Lantern, so it's off to California on a missed Hydro Pump. An Earthquake on the next turn then leaves the beacon in the yellow as Lantern sets up an Aqua Ring to restore some of its HP. Lantern then goes for an Iron DH, but it doesn't matter and an Earthquake takes it out. Third is Blastoise, who goes for the offense and sets up an Iron Defense, meaning an Earthquake does minimal damage. For whatever reason, I decide to set up a curse as Blastoise sets up the rain with a Rain Dance. I then decide to switch into Massachusetts on an Iron Defense. Blastoise then goes for an Aqua Tail, which is useless thanks to my Water Absorb ability. I can then go for a Thunderbolt, which I picked up at a rest stop, which leaves it in the red. Blastoise then wastes his last turn going for a Skull Bash before being sniped with a Thunderbolt. From here, Juan's last two Pokemon are killed by Thunderbolts without an issue, winning me the battle and the 5th gym badge. After this, I'm thrusted onto a new board. My next encounter is a Venomoth, which is a pass. After this, I get a new type of encounter, which is a way to revive Pokemon. Since I've only lost one Pokemon, which is a questionable Pokemon, my choices are basically trash. This does bring me to my fight against the 6th gym leader, Watson. Luckily, I have California, who is Earthquake, so yeah. Anyway, that wins me the 6th gym badge of the run. On the next board lies a type of encounter called a Dark Deal. The deal will give me something amazing like a critical hit or a discount charm in exchange for something bad. Or alternatively, I could just run away from the Dark Deal and instead go ahead and find a new encounter in the form of Nidorino. I also name it Massachusetts. This unfortunately means it's time to bid farewell to Colorado the Solrock. He's extended his welcome and will not be useful until the next couple of fights. RIP buddy, you were really useful in the Brawly and a couple of other fights, but it's time for you to go back into the wild, man. I'm sorry. At the very least, I can go ahead and get another legendary Pokemon after a simple battle with a Team Magmagrunt. My legendary encounter here ends up being a Latios, which is an amazing encounter, and it's here that we have to bid farewell to our starter, Ohio. Ohio has been with us since the beginning, but with every other team member having to use for an upcoming fight, he's just become too much of a burden. As Ohio and I look at each other for the last time, okay, this is becoming annoying to write. Get out of here, Ohio, and welcome Ohio 2. At the end of the board lies a fight with Roxanne. She leads with Relicanth and I lead off with California. An Earthquake leaves in the red as it hits a weak attack. An Iron Head on the next turn then gets the KO. Second is Cursla. An Iron Head does a third and I manage to get the flinch. This means I can go for another Iron Head as Cursla retaliates with an Earth Power. It doesn't matter here and another Iron Head takes it out. Third is Golem, and an Earthquake does around a third as it hits a Stone Edge. Another Earthquake on the next turn then leaves it in the red before I get hit again by another Stone Edge. Once again, another Earthquake takes it out. Fourth is Lunatone, and I try to hit this thing with an Earthquake, but it doesn't matter because this thing has Levitate, and it just opts for a Future Sight. I hit an Iron Head doing massive damage, and I get the flinch, meaning I can just take it out with another Iron Head on the next turn. In comes Aerodactyl, and I take a Future Sight for a whopping 13 health points. Anyway, I switch into Massachusetts on a hard rock slide. Another slide on the next turn then leaves me on 26 HP before I hit a Brine, leaving it in the yellow. From here, it's off to Oregon for his debut battle on an Iron Head. An Aqua Jet on the next turn then is enough for the kill. Last is Shuckle, and an Aqua Jet does around a fourth as it sets up a Sticky Web. Another Jet leaves it in the red HP range as I tank a Stone Edge. It doesn't matter here, and another Priority Aqua Jet takes it out, winning me the battle and the 7th gym badge of the playthrough. My next encounter is a Quillfish, which is an easy pass here. But the Camerupt I encounter on the next route is a definite grab. Camerupt will be great in the Glacia and Steven, so he's a great encounter. This does mean we have to say bye to Nidorino and welcome Maine the Camerupt to the team. This means it's time to fight the 8th and final gym leader, Norman. Ironically, Norman causes a snowball effect for us to wipe later, but I'm ready to beat him this time. He leads with Ditto, and I lead off with California. An Earthquake does massive damage as it transforms into a Registeel. It doesn't matter here, and an Earthquake takes it out on the following turn. Second is Exploudart, who tanks an Earthquake fairly well, but just hits a weak Hyper Voice in retaliation. Another Earthquake leaves in the red before I tank a Boom Burst. A third Earthquake then gets the kill. Third is Kecleon. I go for an Ancient Power here as it sets up a substitute, and then it transforms into the Rock type as well. I get hit with a Sucker Punch on the next turn before I'm able to go for an Iron Head to break the substitute. I tank one more Sucker Punch before I get the kill with an Earthquake. Fourth is Persian, who hits a Night Slash before I'm able to hit a massive Iron Head in retaliation. After taking a critical hit Night Slash, I retaliate with my own crit to take out Persian. Fifth is Delcatty, who hits some chip damage with a Fake Out. On the next turn, I get hit with a Double Slap that hits 5 times before I'm able to go for an Iron Head, doing half of its HP. I then switch into Ohio 2 for his debut battle on a missed Sing. This means another Dragon Pulse gets the kill. Last is Blissey, who's very bulky as evidenced by tanking a Dragon Pulse fairly well and setting up a light screen. I then hit a weak Psychic before Blissey hits a soft Egg Bomb. I then switch into Oregon on a Double Edge. An Aqua Jet then gets the kill, and I win the 8th and final gym badge of the playthrough, Deathless. This is a pretty cool feat, considering the fact that Norman is a part of the reason why I wiped, so beating him Deathless is amazing for me. There's not much to report in between Norman and the first Elite Four member fight, other than the fact that I evolve Eevee into a Jolteon. The way the Elite Four works is that you fight a randomly generated Elite Four member and then go through another board. In this case, our first Elite Four member is Drake. Drake leads off with Kingdra, and I lead off with California. I tank a Dragon Pulse before I'm able to go for an Earthquake, doing a third. I then get hit with a Hydro Pump on the next turn before an Earthquake leaves it in the yellow. I tank yet again another Hydro Pump before I get the kill with an Iron Head. Just kidding, it lives on 1 HP, hits a Hydro Pump, and then I get the kill with an Iron Head. Second is Rayquaza, so I switch into Massachusetts as Rayquaza goes for a Fly. Since I underspeed, all I have to do is tank a Fly and then get the KO with an Ice Beam. Third is Flygon, who is able to hit a Dragon Rush for some chip damage before going down to a quad times super effective Ice Beam. Fourth is Dragonite, who tries to set up on me with a Dragon Dance before I get the kill with an Ice Beam. Fifth is Latios, who just goes for a Memento, lowering my attack stats but just dies in the process. And last is Latias, who hits a Psychic before taking an Ice Beam that gets the freeze. A couple more Ice Beams then get the KO on Latias, winning me the battle and the first Elite Four member fight. 1 down, 3 to go. Once again, I'm thrusted onto another board. I decide to go fight a strong trainer. Surprise, the trainer ends up being me? With my exact team. We both lead off with our Registeels. I hit an Earthquake doing around half of its HP as it misses a Zap Cannon. My second Earthquake on the next turn low rolls and I get hit with a Superpower. Luckily, another Earthquake seals the deal. Second is Camerupt, who just goes down to a single Earthquake. Third is Jolteon, who misses an attack and goes down to an Earthquake. Fourth is Lapras, who tanks an Earthquake and sets up a Safeguard. A Superpower on the next turn then takes it out. Then Latias comes out, so I switch into Massachusetts on a Psychic. I hit an Ice Beam after taking another Psychic to take it out. Last is Kabutops, who gets off an Ancient Power before I can go for a Thunderbolt on the next turn is to take it out, winning me the battle. Honestly, the only thing I learned is if I run into a Pokemon with Earthquake, I am screwed. My next encounter is a legendary board, but given the fact it's hailing, it's likely Articuno or Regice, and given the fact that I have Massachusetts, I decide to skip out on this encounter. Next up is the second fight against the Elite Four member Sidney. He leads Sharpedo and I lead off with California. I tank a Night Slash before going for a critical hit Iron Head. Since I got a crit, I can just go for another Iron Head to take it out after taking a Night Slash. Second is Tyranitar. An Earthquake does around half of its HP as he retaliates with an Earthquake of his own, also doing massive damage. Since I outspeed on the next turn, I'm able to get a KO with another Earthquake. Third is Crawdaunt, so I switch into Jolteon on a Crunch, doing massive damage, and I take chip damage from the sand. Luckily, I am able to outspeed and get the KO with a Shockwave. Next up is Absol, so I switch into main for his debut battle on a failed Sucker Punch. An Earthquake leaves the emo horse in the red as he sets up a future sight. I then fulfill the horse's dream by getting the KO with an Earthquake. Fifth is Sableye, who I get the OHKO with a critical hit Earthquake. I'm not sure if the critical hit mattered here, but who cares. Last is Mightyena, and I take damage from the future sight. Mightyena then hits a Sucker Punch, doing massive damage before I retaliate with a couple of Earthquakes to take it out, winning me the battle and the second Elite Four member fight. 2 down, 2 to go. My next board contains another strong encounter. Unfortunately, it's just a Feraligatr, which doesn't do anything to the group, so it's a hard pass. My next encounter is a Slowbro whose Psychic type does add something to the team, so it's time to bid farewell to Kabutops and welcome Organ 2 to the team. This means it's off to the next Elite Four member fight, which ends up being Glacia. She leads off with Cloyster and I lead with Ohio 2. One Dragon Pulse is enough to pick up the KO. Next up is Sneasel, who meets the same fate and goes down to a single Dragon Pulse. Third is Walrein. He could be a potential problem, so I hard switch into Jolteon on a Blizzard. A Thunderbolt on the following turn is luckily enough to pick up the KO. Fourth is Piloswine, and his ground type could be a potential problem for Jolteon. I hard switch into Massachusetts on an Earthquake. O'Brien leaves the pig on exactly 1 HP after I tank another Earthquake. Luckily, a follow-up Brine takes it out. Fifth is Articuno, so I switch into Organ 2 on a Hurricane. Articuno then misses a Blizzard before his Psychic does a third. I then waste a turn going for a Hero Pulse as Articuno goes for a Roost. I then go for another Psychic after tanking a Blizzard. I then decide to switch into California as Articuno goes for a Roost. I tank another Blizzard before an Iron Head leaves it in the yellow. After tanking another Hurricane, I take Articuno out. Last up is Delibird, who just goes down to a stab Iron Head, winning me the battle and the third Elite Four member fight. 3 down and 1 to go. On the next board, I get another encounter in the form of Lunatone, which is another solid pass. And that's all that happens before it's time for the last Elite Four member fight against Phoebe. Luckily, Ohio 2 is strong enough to get the KO against her first 4 Pokemon with Dragon Pulses. The only Pokemon who doesn't get one-shot is Shedinja because of Wonder Guard. This means I have to switch into Main, who gets the one-shot with a Flamethrower after he tanks a hard Phantom Force. But with that, all 4 Elite Four members have fallen, and all that's left is Wallace and Steven. My next encounter is a strong Pokemon, and that strong Pokemon ends up being a Ninjask, which is a solid pass. Unfortunately, Slowbro runs his course, meaning it's time to bid farewell and say hello to Dugong, which is definitely worse than Slowbro. I definitely took an L on that one. And just like that, I'm on Death's door, or the Champion's door. The champion ends up being Wallace, which I am somewhat prepared for. Wallace leads off with his Cloyster, and I lead off with Ohio 2. I decide to hard switch into Jolteon on an Aurora Beam. Luckily, a Thunderbolt gets the one-shot on the following turn. Second is Kyogre, who sets up the rain with his Drizzle ability. I outspeed and hit a massive Thunderbolt, meaning Water Sprout is nerfed in the rain. A follow-up Thunderbolt gets the kill and baits out Kingdra, and unfortunately Jolteon's gonna have to die here. He takes a Hydro Pump to the face. RIP, buddy. At the very least, I get a free switch into Ohio 2, meaning all I have to do is tank a Dragon Pulse and then fire back with one of my own to get the kill. Next up is Gyarados, who intimidates me. I hit a Dragon Pulse, leaving her in the yellow, as I get hit with a Hurricane that confuses, but it doesn't exactly matter, and a follow-up Pulse gets the one-shot. Pelipper comes out next and sets up the rain with a Drizzle. I then hard switch into Massachusetts on a Tailwind. I tank a Hurricane before I'm able to go for an Ice Beam, leaving it in the red. Wallace then switches into Poliwrath, who takes an Ice Beam well but gets frozen. Poliwrath stays frozen, so a Thunderbolt gets the KO. Last is Pelipper, who just goes down to a single Thunderbolt, winning me the battle. Honestly, I'd like to point out, how can there be 2 champions? It's clear they can only be 1 champion, so how are Wallace and Steven both champions? Whatever, this is making my brain hurt. And just like that, I'm thrusted onto the final board of Emerald Rogue. I encounter a strong Pokemon den, and the den contains a Sharpedo. And since Jolteon is gone, Illinois can freely join the team without replacing anybody. Fittingly, my last route is Victory Road, and my last encounter is a Salamence. Since I have a full team of 6, it's time to bid farewell to Dugong, who was never used at all in this playthrough. It's now time for the final fight of the game, Steven. These 6 Pokemon have come a long way from the beginning. Here they are, leveled up to the final cap of 100 with their final movesets. Let's do this. Steven is looking at a cliff before he sees me and decides to attack me. He leads off with his Skarmory, and I lead off with Ohio 2. Ohio 2 goes for a resisted Dragon Pulse as the Metal Bird hits a Night Slash. Luckily, a follow-up Dragon Pulse on the next turn gets the kill. Second is Mawile, and I go for a Dragon Pulse, forgetting this thing is part Fairy, so it does no damage at all. I then get hit with a massive Play Rough, getting the attack drop. I then decide to switch into California on a resisted Play Rough, which leftovers restore. An Earthquake leaves Mawile the Sliver before I tank an Iron Head. I then can go for an Earthquake on the next turn, baiting in Magneton. I hit an Earthquake, leaving Magneton with 1 HP. Magneton then sets up a Magnet Rise, meaning I have to get the kill with an Ancient Power instead, which does not get the Omni Boost. Fourth is Jirachi, who sets up a Future Sight as I hit an Iron Head, doing a 7th. Jirachi then sets up a Cosmic Power before I hit an Ancient Power, doing little damage and not getting a boost. Jirachi then sets up another Cosmic Power before I hit an Earthquake, leaving Jirachi in the yellow as I take a Future Sight. The Wishmaker then goes for a Doom Desire before an Earthquake leaves in the red. Jirachi then wastes the last seconds of his life, setting up a Cosmic Power before being killed by an Earthquake. Fifth is Latios, who just goes for a Memento, but since I have Clear Body, my stats don't get lowered, meaning Latios died for nothing. Sixth and last is Fortress, and I tank a Doom Desire. An Earthquake does a Sliver before I take a Heavy Slam and hit a Superpower, leaving the bomb in the yellow while also getting my attack and defense stats lowered. I then tank another Heavy Slam, which leftovers recovers. I hit another Superpower for a Sliver as Fortress goes for a Magnet Rise. I then hit an Iron Head for a smidge as I get hit with another Heavy Slam. The next 3 turns repeat themselves as we exchange Iron Heads and Heavy Slams until I finally come out on top and destroy Fortress with a final Iron Head. Steven has no Pokemon left, meaning I won the battle and the run. Well, that was an amazing run, and I had a lot of fun making it. Emerald Road completely reinvented Pokemon and made it feel like a fresh game compared to the base game ones. In fact, there's a whole post game to this game where I can get generations 1 through 8 Pokemon, Mega Evolution, and Z moves. I also want to give a shout out to the creator of this game, Pokeball. A lot of love was poured into the making of this game. Her Twitter will be in the description down below, as well as the patch file to play this game. I hope you had a lot of fun watching this as I did creating this video. Thank you, and make sure to like and subscribe. Until next time, and I will see you later. Bye. That was like the most cliche YouTube outro ever.